Okay, so this section is going to talk about adding the body to the character. So we've been animating the head by itself. And I do recommend when you're starting your head turn to have some gesture drawings to start with as to where you want your character to start and where you want them to end. So we have that here. We've been animating it piece by piece, but we have had the gesture drawings as a point of reference. But now I want to add the body. Now, he does have a couple of elements on him. He's got the trunk himself, like the shoulders and the chest. He also has little details on his outfit. So cowl around his neck and the little bands on the edges of his shoulders of his shirt. So those are some elements that I would probably add on separate layers and just structure the body. We do have here, he seems like he's leaning back more, and then here he's leaning forward a little more. And I'm not sure if that's going to quite work out. We'll try it. We'll do the body first, and then we'll worry about the cowl and see how well it transitions. So I'm going to add a new drawing, and I'm going to call this body. Now, this is just one character. If this was multiple characters, then I would give the person's name and then their body. So name underscore body, or the first letter of their initial dash body or underscore body. But this is just one character in this whole shot. So in this case, just body would be fine. So I'm going to do the outline. Start with... Oh, it's disappearing because I put the body underneath the gestures. And I had hit Command Z, so that's why they're still not showing up. I had Command Z'd it. So you can choose if you want to connect the lines in the back. In inking, you would. You would want to connect the lines in the back so that they could fill. But in sketching, if it's going to be distracting, you can leave them out. And if his hands or arms were going to be moving separate, I would add them separately. I would maybe stop the body about here and then do a different layer with the shoulders. But his arms aren't really doing anything in this, so I'll leave them. Okay. And then I'm going to go to the last frame. And again, I'm not going to worry about the shoulder, the clothing details on his shoulders. I'm not going to worry about that. And for the neck, you may want to add the neck on the same layer. You may want to add it on a different layer. You can make his neck too thick. Depends on how much of the neck you see. I think in this case I'll just add it to the body. I can always change it later. So I'll add that here. Okay, and it doesn't matter what frame I add it if it's all the same exposure. So if it's one drawing that's been exposed for 10 frames, whether I add that detail on frame 2, frame 8, frame 5, it doesn't matter if it's still the same drawing. So now I'm going to delete these frames. And here I'm going to add onion skinning, turn off gestures, and expand the onion skin so that I can see the frame before and the frame after. Now, I actually don't want to do a direct in-between for this. The reason why is because the body and the head should not change at the same rate at the same time. That's rather robotic. Usually something's going to lead. So it can be the head that leads or it can be the body that leads. So why would you want to do one or the other? So let's say if you're standing there, or you have a character that's standing there, and someone calls their name, like, hey, in this case, his character's name is Kane. Hey, Kane. Then most likely he would probably turn his head first. Maybe look with his eyes first, then start to turn his head, and then the body could follow. Or let's say it's a kid in a toy shop, and the kid is got their eye on this new action figure or this new game, and it's got that kid's attention, and the child's name is called. Then he or she may turn, let's say they're being called to, okay, come on, let's go. Well, their eyes might still linger, and their head might still point in the direction of the toy or the game or the object of their interest, and their body may start to turn before the head does, and then the head turns around when the body is at a point. So those are just some things to consider. In this case, I'm thinking that he is probably going to start turning his head first and then his body. So what I could do for that is keep that in mind with this drawing. So instead of having him even, well, that'd be too much anyway. Instead of doing something like this, where he's even, oops, turn off. Okay. Let his body stay kind of in the angle that it is. He's going to have some reaction. Okay, the body's going to have some, maybe a little bit, but should stay much closer to the green than it is to the red. Sorry, much closer to the red than it is to the green. Because green is after, red is before. So we want to be closer to the red. Okay. Let's add that line. Okay. And then we could start doing more in-betweens. Now, he may be lingering too long in this pose. Actually, let me adjust this a little bit. There we go. It's not really enough change in his right shoulder, our left, stage left. Still want this to be closer to red than to green, but now there's at least a little bit of change. He is bowing his head, so there you go. Okay. And let's turn off the gestures. Oh, and let's turn down onion skinning so there's not so much being shown at once. Okay. Okay, so right now this is synced with the body and ends at the same time. It might be good to have a little bit more of a delay, so have the body get into this position maybe a frame later. Let's see about moving these frames over a little bit. Okay. Okay. And let's step back. I'm going to extend the exposure of the red side, so the previous frame, so that we can see the one that's the one before, because it's a bit farther. And only one ahead for the green, so that we could see just two. If you can have more than one frame showing with onion skinning, but you just got to be a little careful, because then it's easy to make a mistake and actually in between the wrong lines. You'll know if that happens when you play it back and there's a weird pop in the animation, or it seems to shake forward and then shake back. But the pop will probably be the biggest indication. And do an empty drawing. Okay, I'll step back one more, and then I may just use these frames and kind of push them back. Yeah, actually, let's pen F5. Let's have his body start later. Okay. Okay, this might be best off on 2s, but let's see. We can always delete it. Okay. So his head starts first, and then his body starts, but I might delete this frame and just let this extend. We'll see. I like the right side, but not so much the left. I'm going to adjust this part. Okay, I like the neck, so we'll leave the neck. Step back. Oops. Let's turn off the gestures. Okay. Let's turn on the roughs, or the gestures, and let's adjust the shoulder here. Okay. Oh, I meant that for the last frame. Let's cut, or Command X, go to the next frame, Command V, paste it in place, so no biggie. Okay. Okay, so let me just turn off onion skin and make sure that it's very sketchy. Okay, let's see how that looks. Okay. Okay, there we go. So we have the outline of the body. And it starts a little later than the head and it ends a little later than the head, but it does not end before the hair. Oh wait, it ends before the hair does. So the hair comes to a stop and settles, which works well in this case because we have that overlapping action, overshoots and then settles back. The hair should take longer. Okay, so let's start adding some of the details. So on top of the body, we could do another layer for the... You could have the cowl or all the details at once. I usually like to break it down because then it's one thing that we're keeping track of at a time. So I like the position of the cowl in this picture, so... Okay. Okay, and what does it look like at the end? Okay, that might be too low. It looks like there's a bit of a change. Or a little, maybe too much change. Not crazy about that shape either. How low is that compared to this? That's a little too low. Let's bring it up higher. It's helpful to work this stuff out in the keyframes. And that way when we do the in-betweens, we're in-betweening the right places. Because if the starting point and ending point aren't good, or either of them are good, then the in-betweens, you're going to be... Basically, it's like driving your car and you're going to the wrong place. We want to go to the right place. And if you go to the wrong place, you have to turn around and go back. It's kind of like that with drawing, with animation. If the drawings are problematic, the in-betweens are not going to fix it. And you may have to redo some of it. We want to try to avoid that if we can. It's impossible to avoid entirely, but we can always try. Okay, so I'm going to make the gesture drawings go away. And what was the direct in-between? It wasn't the middle pose. Was it this one? I think it was... Yeah, I think it was this one. I think that's the in-between. Did I make a mistake? Where's the cowl for this? Oh. Undo. Oh, okay. I accidentally deleted the layer that had the cowl on it. So let's not do that. Okay. Now I'm going to make the gestures go away. And I'm going to turn on onion skin. And I'm going to make this the direct in-between. There we go. Let's turn down the length, the duration of the onion skin for the previous frame, so we only see one at a time. Okay. Oh, I have the bodies. I need to push the cowl over so it's lines with the last body frame. This one barely has a change at all. Okay, let's go back and walk backwards. Okay, and extend to the end. Okay, it looks pretty good. Now let's add the shoulders. We'll shoulder the edges of his shirt. It's like the shoulder sleeves. Is that what they would be called? Let's turn off the onion skin for the cowl. And the shoulder sleeves go past the shoulders. Okay. And last position. So I am deviating from the original gesture a bit. So you can see by how the red sketch lines are a bit different from the blue sketch lines. So maybe I'll poke the eyeball of the gestures and just draw it myself. Just so I'm not distracted. Just got to make sure that it's on model. How's it look compared? Oh, no. I'm not crazy about that one. Okay, well his shoulders are a lot higher. Yeah, that one's fine, I think. Let me turn on onion skin for this one. Okay, his shoulder doesn't change all that much. Okay, so this one I believe was the in-between. Okay, it's because of the sketchiness of this one. Maybe I should put this one down a little bit then. So I'm just grabbing it and nudging it. Okay, so let's see how that looks. Oh, actually we need to step back and do the previous frames. Now I've been doing the later ones first and then the previous ones. There's no right or wrong as to what order you have to do these in. I just usually do, in this case I'm just doing them forward because it's easy. You just step forward, step forward, step forward. But you could have done it back, back, back. There'd be nothing wrong with it one way or another. Either way would have been fine. So I'm going to step back. And again, the reason why I'm doing it like this, from the middle out, so the fact that I'm doing it from the middle forward or the middle back, that is intentional. That is to give easing. Make sure the animation starts slow, speeds up in the center, and ends slowly, like a pendulum. In fact, a head turn is very often considered very similar to a pendulum. Same thing with arm swings. Pendulum motions are very common in animation in general. Just moving your character around in arcs. Okay, and extend that exposure. Okay, extending that. And this shoulder's really not moving very much, so there's not much change here. Okay, and let's see how that looks. Okay, and there we go. I did realize I stopped drawing the neck at a point, so his neck disappears. That was on the body. Okay, here you wouldn't see the neck anymore anyway, so I'm just gonna... Okay, so I do have a frame where the head's moving and the body's not, and some of the neck is revealing, and then some of it's covered. You could do another body in here, but it's not a big deal. You could just add what parts you would see. So like right here. So here the head's covering it, which might be distracting because now it's cutting into the face. But if this were to be inked and colored, we would continue the underside of the cowl or the body. We would continue those lines and we could fill it with color. And once the head is filled and colored, or inked and colored, it would be covering that part of the body anyway. So it's not a big deal to do it that way. We just have to be careful that it doesn't look weird that the neck isn't moving, but the head looks like it covers the neck anyway at this point. And here he could use a neck. Okay, when would we start to see it? Maybe here. Okay, I'm extending this, and it does make everything else really garish, but this is the only part I'm really looking at. Okay, let's turn this down. No. Okay, let's turn on onion skin. Let's turn this up. There we go. And now he has a neck. And we have the finished head turn. The only thing that was missing is he did have little blushy lines, so that could be included. We put that over the head. Maybe face detail. And let's turn off the in-betweens there, and let's go to the last frame. Okay, well I didn't include the little blushies in this frame. I did include his little sweat though. And let's see what would he look like if he still had little. Okay. And it kind of depends if I want the sweat to do anything. He also has the blood. It's got a little bit of blood on the side of his face. Let's make that its own lecture. So I'm going to take off head detail for now, and we'll make that its own thing. Okay, and so this is doing the body for head turn.